but I'm figuring it out. So, all right. So you guys can go ahead and get set up in whatever position it is that you guys like to start your practice. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but I think it's important to know that you can really start your practice however you want to. I always suggest being on your back, probably because that's how I like to start my practice. But I know when I teach class live, I have one woman who always starts in a seated position. I see all kinds of different things. So it's entirely up to you to find that position that feels comfortable for you today. Maybe it's the same thing every week. Maybe you change it up. So as you start to settle into that position, whether it's lying down on your back, on your side, or seated, start to slow down a little bit. Start to deepen your breath. So really paying attention to our breath. I know we've talked about breath before, but it's something that we're doing all day, every day, obviously, but sometimes we're not giving it the full attention. Usually we're not giving it its full attention. So for the next few moments and maybe for the whole next hour, I invite you to really pay attention to your breath. Maybe even bringing your one hand to your chest and one hand to your stomach right now, and just feeling that breath. When you inhale, your chest should rise and then your stomach should rise, creating a balloon-like effect, blowing up a balloon on the inhale. On the exhale, that breath should go back out. This is how we breathe properly, but a lot of times we don't breathe this way. A lot of times the breath stays right here in the chest, and the chest goes up and down, but the whole body doesn't expand. Other times when we breathe in, we actually suck our stomach in, but that's not right either. If you're breathing in, you're bringing air in, you want to be filling up the stomach. So think about that. As you inhale, you're drawing that air in. As you exhale, you're pressing it back out. So just take a couple more moments now to follow that breath, track it as it comes in through the body and then goes back out. And in doing so, you're getting a couple benefits. Not only are you starting to take some better breath, but you're also becoming really present. When you pay attention to your breath, you're not really paying attention to anything else. Whatever might be on your mind kind of dissolves and you just follow that breath. So there's two purposes to paying attention to our breath. And then on that next breath, you can think about your intention if you haven't set that already. And maybe your intention is to continue to follow your breath for the next hour, or maybe you have another intention. And then once that intention is set, we're going to start to find a full body stretch. So if you're on your back, you would just start to reach your arms overhead. If you were choosing to sit for your warm up, then slowly make your way onto your back now. Either way is fine. Reaching the fingertips overhead, big full body stretch, and then the knees will start to draw in towards you as you wrap your arms around your shins, giving yourself a little hug. You can rock from side to side or make circles. And then we're just going to place the left foot down on the mat. Keep that left knee bent. Right foot comes to the left knee, I should say. And then the left leg lifts up off the mat, interlacing your hands behind the left thigh, flexing both knees or feet as you draw the left leg towards you. So we're getting that stretch of the right hip. Lots of options here. You can stay still. You can raise and lower that left leg, straightening and bending the knee. You can rock from side to side a little bit. You can take your right hand and just gently press the right knee away from you. And then we're all going to place the left foot down on the mat. Right foot also comes onto the mat and we'll switch sides. Left foot comes to the right knee. Right leg lifts up off the mat as you interlace your hands behind the right thigh, flexing through both feet as you draw the right leg towards you. Now feeling that opening on the left side, that left outer hip. Taking a couple breaths here to move in any way that feels good for you. And then slowly bringing the right foot down to the mat, bringing the left foot down to the mat. We're going to place your feet so maybe they're like a fist or two apart in between your knees, so a little bit further apart. And then just start to let your knees rock from side to side. So the knees release over to the left side and then over to the right side. This is just giving you a little twist through the spine. You can take it as deep as you like. Maybe the knees are almost touching the ground on each side. Maybe they're not at all. It does not matter. If you're feeling like the spine is moving, maybe a little crack, and if it feels good, then that's all you need. Just some movement and some twisting in the spine. And then as you start to come back through center, the knees will draw back in. Your hands come behind the thighs as you start to rock along the spine up to your seated position, taking a couple rocks if that feels comfortable, or just make your way to your seat, crossing those legs as you sit up nice and tall. Rock from side to side a little bit, grounding down on your tailbone, relax the shoulders. And then on the next inhale, the arms are gonna lift up overhead. As you exhale, your left hand comes to the depth to the mat. We'll take that side bend to the left. So we're stretching out the right side of the body, reach the right fingertips, press down through the right hip, looking under that right arm. And then on the next inhale, lift it back up and take it over to the right side. So now we're stretching through the left side of the body. Roll that left shoulder open as you look under your arm. Reach the left fingertips a little bit further. And again, on the next inhale, lift it all the way up. This time on the end, exhale, start to walk the hands away from you as you fold forward. You can move here in this forward fold too. Sometimes I like to rock side to side or just sort of straighten my back a little bit as I inhale and then fold a little bit further as I exhale. You can rock your head from side to side, kind of relaxing the shoulders and the neck. Let the head become really heavy as it sort of just hangs between the shoulders. And then slowly starting to walk the hands back towards the body as you make your way back to a seated position. And we'll just roll out the shoulders a couple times. So a couple forward rolls, a couple backwards rolls, choosing a speed that feels good for you. Maybe pausing a little bit, working out any tightness or any kinks. And then we'll do the same thing with the head. So go ahead and take a couple circles with your neck. Full circles or side to side. If you're doing full circles, make sure you do a couple in each direction so that you're nice and even. And then once you are feeling even on both sides, coming back through center, we're going to make our way into our first tabletop position. So coming onto your hands and your knees, setting yourself up with that alignment, with the spine nice and straight, and then you'll move right into your cat and cow pose. So as you inhale, the stomach goes down, the gaze goes up. As you exhale, the back rounds, the ground gets pressed away, arching the back. Think about a string almost between your shoulder blades or a little below your shoulder blades, pulling the spine up. And then press the stomach down, take the gaze up, continuing to move here a couple more times. Always adding on if you like some movement in your hips. Some people like to make circles with their hips or a little child's pose. It feels good to kind of press back and forward. And then we're going to slowly start to make our way into our first downward facing dog. So your toes will tuck, your legs will straighten, your hips press up and back. As you start to settle into your downward facing dog, continue all those little movements that you were just taking in your cat and cow. So a lot of the movements are going to be the same. You can move your hips, you can move your head, you can lift your heels up and press them back down, stretching out the bottoms of your feet. Sometimes I even like to press the tops of my toes into the mat a little bit, getting a little stretch in my feet. Whatever feels good is fair game. On the next breath, we're going to roll it out into a plank position, tucking the tailbone, engaging the core, and that nice plank. And then your knees are coming to the mat. Lower yourself all the way down onto your stomach, nice and slow. And then taking a baby cobra. So your baby cobra has your hands lifted up off the mat, or at least just not pressing into the mat. So you can have your fingertips still on the mat, but you're not pushing yourself up. You're just using your upper body to kind of lift yourself. And then we're going to press our hands into the mat and find a child's pose. So your hips go up and back, your toes are together, your knees are slightly apart. As you start to settle into your child's pose, always options here. If you like your fingertips to remain towards the top of your mat, you can do that. I like to sometimes stack my hands with my forehead rested on my hands, or fingertips next to your toes. That'll take some pressure off your shoulders. If you feel like it's a strain on your shoulders to have your arms forward, try bringing them to the sides of your body. So we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to kind of build onto a sequence. So we're going to do the same thing a couple times, adding on each time. So it kind of gives you a chance to get familiar with the sequence and kind of know what's coming next. So just giving you a heads up where we're going. When you're ready, you can start to walk your hands back towards the top of the mat if they're not there already. Tucking your toes as you make your way back to your downward facing dog. Send those hips up and back, lengthen through the spine. Think about pressing your hips almost like towards the top corner of the room, the back corner. So your hips are up and back, they're the highest part of your body. And then turning your gaze so that you're looking at your hands, we're going to start to walk our feet towards our hands, coming to a forward fold at the top of the mat. Your feet can be about 2 or 3 fist width distance apart as you take a forward fold. Any forward fold that feels good for you. Maybe rocking side to side, maybe holding onto opposite elbows. Whatever you do, let yourself be a rag doll. So just think about completely letting go, completely letting gravity weigh on your body and sort of draw you down in a good way. Usually we talk about gravity weighing on us in a bad way, but right now we're going to use it to our advantage. We're going to get a nice deep stretch because of gravity. And then on the next inhale, we're going to slowly start to lift it all the way up, reaching your arms overhead, a little back bend as you bring your hands to heart center. Good. Go ahead and step your feet together if they're not already. If they were a few feet apart before. So take another breath in, reaching your arms overhead, interlacing your hands, and then press your palms away from you. Relax your shoulders. And we're going to take a side stretch to the left, or a side bend. So one more time, we're getting a nice deep stretch on the right side of the body. Imagine that you are between like 2 panes of glass or a sandwich or something where you can't lean forward or backwards. You have to stay in one line. So sometimes in this pose, we start to lean a little bit forward. It might mean you lift up a little more and you don't get as deep of a stretch, but that's okay. Keep it in a line. And then as you come back up through center, take it over to the right side. Same thing, dial that left shoulder back a little bit, press the right hip forward a little bit. Think about pressing the left hip to the side and then your palms to the opposite side. Good. On the next inhale, take it back up through center. As you exhale, we're going to take a big dive down, forward fold. Okay. From your forward fold, this time, we're going to step that left foot to the back of the mat. So we've done this before. You can always choose to take a giant step or a couple little steps to get that left foot to the back of your mat. This time, we're going to lift up to a warrior one here. So you're going to ground down through that back heel, and then you're going to slowly start to lift up through the upper body. Maybe you bring your hands to your knee first. As you reach your arms overhead, press that left hip forward, relax the shoulders. Imagine those hips, I think I said this last week, are like headlights. They're facing forward, your shoulders are facing forward. Everything is facing forward except that left foot is kind of at a 45-degree angle. Everything else is looking straight ahead. The shoulders are relaxed. And take your gaze towards your hands. See if you can bend into that right knee just a little bit more. Good. And then we're going to slowly take it right back down. I know this is a challenging transition, so I think we're just going to do this for the first round. Let's see if you can bring those hands back to frame out that right foot. Spin to the ball of the left foot, and then we're going to step it back up to a forward fold. So giant step or a couple small steps. Hands come to your shins as you take a little halfway lift as you inhale. As you exhale, fold a little deeper, and then we're doing the same thing on the other side. This time that right foot stepping back. So the left foot is forward. We're doing the opposite side. Ground down through that right foot, and then slowly start to lift it up. You can use your knee to kind of get your upper body up. Arms come overhead. Be mindful that that left knee is on top of the left ankle. Press the right hip forward. And take your time. I always like to start with the ground. So I kind of check my feet, check my knees, check my hips, sort of making those adjustments all the way up until you're all the way into your pose. And then you can give it a nice big smile as you look up towards your hands. And a nice big breath. And then on the next breath, we'll slowly start to bring the hands back to frame out that left foot. Spin to the ball of the right foot so you're on your toes. And then again, one giant step up or a couple smaller steps until you're back at a forward fold. Hands come to shins, little halfway lift for space. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, lifts it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. On the next inhale, we're going to reach the arms back overhead. As you exhale, dive it down, forward fold. We're stepping it back to our downward facing dog. So you can go ahead and walk the feet to the back of the mat. Take your time as you get yourself there. Maybe you continue to move a little bit. Maybe at this point, you start to find some stillness in this pose. On the next breath, we're going to roll it out into a plank position. Shoulders coming over the wrist, tailbone tucks under, core is engaged. Your knees are going to come down to the mat. And again, you'll lower yourself all the way down onto your stomach. You can take that same baby cobra if you like, or if you want a little bit deeper of a back bend, start to press your hands into the mat, lifting the upper body up. If you notice that your shoulders are hunched up by your ears, lower yourself down a little bit. You want those shoulders relaxed away from the ears. That might mean not lifting up as high, but that's okay. If you're all the way up here, but your shoulders are up, that's not good for your back. And then slowly lowering yourself all the way back down onto the mat. We're gonna press the hands in, press the hips up and back. This time we're coming back to a downward facing dog. So you can bend your knees, tuck your toes, find your downward facing dog. And then taking your gaze to the top of the mat, go ahead and take a couple steps until you're back in your forward fold. Hands come to shins as you take a little halfway lift. As you exhale, fold. On the next inhale, lift it all the way up, reach the arms overhead. And hands come to heart center. Good. We're going to add on a little bit. This time we're not going to step back from our fold. We're just going to step back to that warrior one from standing. So you're going to step the left foot all the way to the back of your mat, as far back as you can. Left foot is at a 45-degree angle. Hips are facing forward. Take a breath in as you lift your arms up. As you exhale, we're going to bend into that right knee. The shoulders relax. We're coming back to our warrior one. You've been here before. Maybe you come a little deeper this time. Maybe you relax the shoulders a little more and lengthen through the spine. From here, we're going to turn it into a high lunge. So the only thing you're doing is pivoting to the ball of that left foot. So the left foot was grounded before. Now you're on the toes of the left foot. Everything else is kind of staying the same. We're going to take a breath in and lengthen through the upper body. So kind of lifting up. And then as you exhale, you're going to start to reach forward, almost like you're holding something and you're trying to hand it to someone in front of you, like a ball or, I don't know, anything that you want in between your hands. It feels like a basketball or a beach ball to me. Good. And then slowly lifting it back up. You can straighten that front leg. That should feel good. Hands can come to the sides of the body as you step it back up to the top of your mat. Good. And then that right foot is going to step all the way back. So 45-degree angle with that right foot. So your legs are pretty spread out on the mat, just about as wide as the mat, maybe a little less depending on how tall you are. Take a breath in as you reach your arms up. As you exhale, back to your warrior one. Left side this time. So the left knee is forward. The shoulders are relaxed. You're pressing down through the outer edge of that right foot. And then we're going to make that small adjustment coming into the high lunge. So to come into our high lunge, lift that right heel up off the mat, press the right toes in. You might find that you can come a little deeper. I tend to sit a little bit deeper into my high lunge than when I'm in that warrior one. So let's take a breath in, lengthen through the upper body, reach the fingers up a little higher, grab that ball or whatever it is you're holding in between your hands, and then start to reach it forward. Kind of like you're creating one straight line from that right hip or that right heel all the way up the body, reaching it forward. And then slowly lifting it all the way back up. You can straighten the left leg, hands come to the sides of the body as you step it back up to the top of your mat. Right foot comes up to meet the left. Reach your arms up first. Inhale. Then as you exhale, take a lift, take a fold. I'm tripping on my words. Halfway lift as you inhale. As you exhale, fold. We're going to step it back to our downward facing dog. Go ahead and step the right foot back, step the left foot back, maybe a couple steps, maybe one step. Taking your time as you get to that downward facing dog. There's no rush. If you're going a little bit slower or faster than me, you can decide your pace. And then we're all going to roll it out into a plank. Tailbone tucks under, core is engaged, knees come down, and then slowly with control, hugging the elbows in, lower yourself all the way down onto the mat, press it up on an inhale to your cobra. You decide. Maybe you come a little bit higher each time. Maybe you found the spot that feels good for you, and that's what you're going to do every time. Totally okay. Slowly lower yourself down, and then we're going to find our downward facing dog. Press your hands into the mat, knees bend, toes tuck as you straighten the back legs. Bend your hips up and back. Take your gaze towards your hands as you slowly start to walk it back to the top of your mat. From the top of your mat, little halfway lift for space. So think about straightening the spine as you inhale. That's what we mean by halfway lift. And then as you exhale, fold. On the next inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Hands come to heart center. Good. Let's add on again. Left foot is stepping back. We're coming right back into that warrior one. So we're grounding down to the outer edge of the left foot. Take a breath in as you reach your arms up. As you exhale, bend into that right knee. So think about pressing down to the outer edge of the left foot, bending into that right knee. Good. Each time you come here, you might start to feel stronger, more comfortable in the pose, or you might start to feel tired because you've been here a couple times before. Either way is fine. It's totally normal to experience both. We're going to spin to the ball of that left foot, coming back to that high lunge. And then you're going to take that ball in between your hands and start to reach it forward, handing it to someone that's just far enough away that you can't quite reach it. Good. This time we're going to bring our hands to the mat. So you're going to bring your hands down to frame out that right foot. The left knee is going to come down. Untuck your left toes. We're setting up for that crescent lunge or our Anjaneyasana. If you like to kind of warm up the hips a little bit, you can take a couple rotations, pressing the hips forwards and backwards. We usually start to do this before we come all the way into the pose. So straightening the right leg as you press the hips back, and then rebending the knee as you press the hips down. Once you've taken a couple rounds, you can come into the pose wherever you're feeling it. So lifting up through the upper body, that right knee is bent, hands can be resting on the knee, or hands start to reach up towards the sky. Think about pressing that left thigh down onto the mat, or at least in that direction. Good. And then we're going to slowly bring our hands back to frame out that right foot. Tuck the left toes as you straighten that back leg. We are stepping it back up to a forward fold. Maybe you take a couple steps. Maybe you take one giant step until your feet are together. Halfway lift for space on an inhale. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. This time that right foot is stepping to the back of the mat as you set yourself up for your Warrior one on the left side with the left leg in front. Take a breath in as you lift the arms up. As you exhale, that left knee starts to bend, pressing down through the outer edge of the right foot. Hips are squared. And then go ahead and pivot on that right foot, finding your high lunge. See if you can sink in just a little bit more. So the lower half of the body is staying the same. From the hips down, they're staying where they are. From the hips up, let's take a breath in and see if we can lengthen the upper body a little bit, and then start to reach forward using that extra length that you just created. Grabbing that beach ball. I like thinking of it as a beach ball instead of a basketball. Hand it forward. And then again, we're going to start to lower it down. So the hands are going to frame out that left foot. The right knee comes down, untuck the toes. And then just like we did on the other side, go ahead and take a couple rocks forwards and backwards as you start to warm up that left leg. So pressing the hips down as you come forward, and then straightening the left leg as you fold over the knee, pressing it back. Couple more, just like that. And then when you're ready, you'll press those hips forward, rebend the left knee, and then start to lift up through the upper body. Relaxing the shoulders, hips are pressing down. Reach those arms up overhead. And then slowly bringing your hands back to frame out that left foot. We're going to tuck the right toes, straighten that back leg. Again, stepping it up to a forward fold. Same options, couple small steps or one big giant step until you're in a forward fold. Hands come to your shins for a halfway lift. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, lift it all the way up, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to take that little flow once more. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, dive it down. This time we're stepping it back to a downward facing dog. Your feet can walk to the back of your mat. Downward facing dog. Take a breath here as you settle in. And then slowly rolling it out into a plank position. Tucking the tailbone under. Engaging your core. Knees come down as you lower yourself all the way onto the mat. Really slow, really controlled. And then on an inhale, start to press it up. Cobra pose. Shoulders are relaxed. Spine is lengthening. And then gently lowering yourself all the way back down. Downward facing dog. Bend your knees, tuck your toes, press your hands into the mat as you make your way back into your downward facing dog. Take your gaze to the top of the mat as you take a couple steps forward until you're in your forward fold. Little halfway lift for space. Exhale as you fold a little deeper. And then on the next inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. We're going to bring the hands to the sides of the body. We're going to come into a mountain pose. You can kind of shake it out a little bit. If you need to grab a sip of water, go ahead, grab a sip of water. And then start to settle in with your feet about hips width distance apart. I always like to kind of rock forwards and backwards on my feet a little bit, sort of just feeling the earth beneath you, starting to ground down. Maybe fanning out your toes a little bit, placing one toe at a time down onto the mat. And then your arms will start to rest at the sides of your body. You can gently float your eyes closed. And then starting from your feet, feel your legs strong, supporting you. Feel your tailbone gently tucking under, and then your spine getting a little bit taller. Feel the shoulders relaxing down and back. Your arms softly resting at the sides of your body. Feel your chin lifting up so that it's parallel to the earth. Almost like there's a little string attached to your head and it's starting to lengthen you, draw you up towards the sky, giving you a little extra inch of height. So you're really strong, you're really tall, but you're also flexible. So maybe you're still moving a little bit, maybe you're swaying gently, maybe there's a little bend in your knees. It's called Tadasana, mountain pose. We're strong like mountains, but we're flexible as well because it's important to be both. Go ahead and think about that intention that you set. Sometimes we start to forget what it is that we set at the beginning of class. So go ahead and come back to it now. Coming back to your breath, maybe even bringing your hand to your chest and your stomach again and see if you're still taking those nice big breaths. And if you're not, go ahead and take one now, feeling the stomach and the chest expand. And as you exhale, let it go. Maybe a big sigh out your mouth. And then your arms can return to the sides of your body if they were lifted as you slowly start to open your eyes. Now that we're feeling nice and grounded, do a balancing pose. So if you like to step off your mat to balance or towards a wall, go ahead and do what it is that helps you feel balanced. We're going to come into tree pose today. So left foot is your standing leg. Right foot comes to the left inner ankle. Hands are at heart center. Here is your pose. You are there. If you're adding on, there's options for the hands and legs. You can start to walk that foot up the leg a little bit, either above or below the knee. And then same thing with your hands. Maybe you reach that prayer overhead. Maybe you open up that prayer a little bit. You extend your arms out wide to either side. Sometimes that can help you find a little more balance. If your tree is moving, that's okay. If you can take 3 breaths, if you have to put your foot down 3 times, that's okay. Lift it back up each time. Continuing to breathe. And then slowly the hands will come back to heart center. That right foot comes back down to the mat. You can kind of shake out your standing leg. I always like to take a little forward fold. Feels good on my back. So do whatever it is that feels good for you. Maybe just shaking it out a little bit. So once you kind of reset, you can start to prepare for the same pose on the right side. So ground down through that right foot. The left foot comes to the inner ankle. Hands come to heart center. If you're using a wall, have the wall on your right side. You can either have your right shoulder pressing up against the wall, or you can just have the wall close enough that you can kind of put your hand on it if you need it. Sometimes just knowing it's there can be really, really good for our mental peace. If you're lifting up that leg, go ahead and start to walk the foot up to the thigh or the calf. Find your position with your hands. See if you can focus on something that's not moving, something small, the size of a light switch or an outlet, something like that, that isn't going to move. That can help you find just a little bit extra balance. 3 more breaths. And then slowly hands come back to heart center. Left foot comes back down to the mat. And again, shake it out, dance it out. Little forward fold if that feels good on the back. Kind of reset it all as you start to make your way back to the top of your mat. So from the top of your mat, we're going to step that left foot back, preparing for another warrior 1. So you know where you're going at this point. You know how far back you like that leg. You know where your hips are. Take a breath in as you reach the arms up overhead. As you exhale, bend into that right knee. Relaxing the shoulders, lengthen through the upper body. We're going to take 1 breath here. And then you're going to start to pivot on the back foot, finding that high lunge. So the left heel is lifting. You're bending into that right knee just a little bit more. And then again, grabbing that ball in between your hands as you start to reach forward. Relaxing through the shoulders. And then again, the hands are going to come down to frame out that right foot. That left knee comes down, untuck the toes, back to our crescent lunge. So your hips are pressing down and your upper body starts to lift up. Your hands can rest on your front knee or they can reach up towards the sky. See if you can press down a little bit further through that left hip. And then we're going to slowly bring our hands back to frame out that right foot. We're going to tuck the back toes straight in that left leg. We're going to do another kind of funky transition here. So give it a shot, see how it goes. We're coming into a warrior 2. So you're going to get there by grounding down through the inner arch of that left foot. So you're bringing the left arch to the mat, and then the upper body lifts up. So you might need to bring your your knees and lift the upper body up. That's okay. Once you get there, warrior two. Right fingertips are reaching forward, left fingertips are reaching back. If you were to draw a line from your right foot, it should cut through the center of your left foot, cut through the center of that back foot. So that's kind of the alignment of your feet. Relax the shoulders and then take your gaze to the right middle finger, center middle finger. We're going to come into a peaceful warrior. So the right hand flips, so your palm is up. Reach your right fingertips forward a little further, still bending into that right knee. And then that right hand is coming up and overhead. Your left hand is on your back leg, but it's really gentle. You don't need to be leaning into that back leg. You can just kind of softly rest that left hand there as you reach your right fingertips behind you, continuing to bend into that right knee. And then we're going to come back to your warrior two, lifting those arms back up, straighten the right leg. That should feel good. No more bend in the right knee. We're going to come into Trikonasana, triangle pose. The right fingertips are going to reach forward one more time, and then right hand comes down, left arm lifts up. Roll the left shoulder open as you look up towards that left hand. The right hand can be resting on your inner thigh. If you have a block at home, it can be resting on the block. It can also just be sort of pressing against your leg. Ideally, that left arm is reaching straight up towards the sky. That can be a little challenging. And then as you inhale, engage the core, start to lift it all the way back up. Your right toes are going to face the side of your mat. As you inhale, your arms lift up overhead. As you exhale, dive it down, forward fold, wide-legged forward fold. And you're just going to move here in any way that feels good for you. So we do this one a lot. And every time you're here, it's really up to you to decide what feels good. So that could be bending opposite knees one at a time. That could be walking your hands out in front of you or behind you. Some people like to twist a little bit, looking over one shoulder and then the other shoulder. And then some people just like to stay still. You get to decide. Great. From here, we've got one more little fun, challenging transition. You're going to start to walk your hands to the right foot. So you're coming to a low lunge back at the top of your mat. So the right toes are facing forward. You're spinning to the ball of the left foot. We're in like a little runner's lunge. Your left hand is going to stay down on the mat. The right arm is going to lift up for a twist. So take your gaze towards that right hand. Roll the shoulder open. Look up towards the sky. Good. And then that right hand is coming back down to the mat. And we're going to find a forward fold. So left foot takes one giant step or a couple little steps until that left foot comes back to meet the right. Halfway lift for space as you inhale. Lengthen the spine. As you exhale, fold. On the next inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Beautiful. And take that whole sequence on the other side. So the right foot is stepping to the back of the mat, setting up for our warrior one on the left side, 45-degree angle with the right foot. Left foot is forward. This is the last time we're going to run through this sequence, so make it good. You know what you're doing. As you inhale, lift up. As you exhale, bend into that left knee. Relax the shoulders, lengthen through the spine. Good. And we're going to take our warrior two into a high lunge by pivoting on that back foot. The ball of the right foot is down, the heel is lifted. Take that imaginary ball in between your hands. As you inhale, lift up. As you exhale, start to reach forward. Pressing those fingertips just a little bit further. Good. And then slowly bringing your hands down to frame out that left foot. The right knee is coming down as you untuck your toes, crescent lunge or Anjaneyasana. Lift up through the upper body. Your hands are coming to your knee. Staying here is perfect. If this feels like it's giving you the best stretch for your hips, stay here. If you like to reach the arms up overhead, then go ahead and do that. Either way, same pose. And then we're gonna slowly start to bring our hands back to frame out that left foot. Here's that funky transition into our warrior two. So the back foot tucks, the back toes tuck, that back leg straightens. And then you're bringing the inner arch of your right foot down onto the mat. Once you have that foot grounded, the upper body starts to lift up. Right fingertips come behind you, left fingertips reach in front of you, warrior two. Bending into that left knee, still being mindful that that left knee is over on top of the left ankle. Good. Left palm flipped so that left hand is facing up towards the sky. Reach the left fingertips forward, and then peaceful warrior. That left hand comes up and overhead. Right hand is resting softly on the back leg. See if you can bend into that left knee a little bit more. And then slowly coming back to your warrior two. From here, we'll find our triangle pose. So that left knee can straighten, take a sigh, and then left fingertips reach forward, and then go ahead and bring that left arm down. So we reach forward first to give ourselves a little extra space, and then the left arm comes down, the right arm lifts up towards the sky. Looking up towards that right hand, press the right shoulder open. On the next inhale, slowly lifting the upper body up. Left toes are going to turn to face the side of your mat. As you inhale, your arms lift up overhead. As you exhale, dive it down. One more time, wide-legged forward fold. Again, option to move here however it feels good for you. So go ahead and continue to move. Rock it out from side to side. Walk your hands to one leg and then the other leg. Or stillness. Right, and before we start to take it down a little bit, we're going to find that last little transition by walking our hands over to the left foot, spinning to the ball of the right foot as the left toes turn to face the top of your mat. Your right hand is going to come down to the mat, and your left arm is going to peel up for that twist. Take your gaze towards the left hand as you roll open that shoulder. Good. Slowly, the left hand comes back down to the mat as you find a forward fold. Couple steps or one giant step with the right foot until it's at the top of your mat. Halfway lift for space as you inhale. Exhale as you fold. Inhale, lift it all the way up. Reach the arms overhead. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Beautiful. On the next inhale, reach those arms up. As you exhale, dive it down. Step it back to your downward facing dog. From your down dog, roll it back out into that plank position. Tuck the tailbone, engage the core. Shoulders are away from the ears. And then your knees come down. Slowly, with control, you'll lower yourself all the way onto your stomach. Last time here, press it up to wherever you want to take your cobra. Maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. Maybe at this point you're like, I need to start taking it back a little bit. That's fine. Listen to your body. Good. And then we're all going to press it back to our downward facing dog. So go ahead and press the hips up and back. Tuck the toes. Downward facing dog. Last time here. Take one more breath. And then we're all going to start to make our way into a seated position. So you can start to lower yourself down onto your mat with your legs extended long in front of you. Grab a sip of water if you need. Shake it out a little bit if you need. And then from here, let's take a breath in, reach the arms up overhead. Exhale as you fold it forward. Make this one feel good. So if that means bending your knees a lot, you can do that. That might feel good on your back. Maybe you don't fold forward as much. Maybe your legs are straight, but you kind of keep the spine straight and just sort of press your chest down a little bit. You can bring your hands to your toes, to your shins, to the mats, and move as much as you like. Maybe the feet move a little bit. Maybe the upper body rocks from side to side. Or even moving with that breath. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Couple options. See what feels good for you, what allows you to get the best stretch. And then slowly starting to lift all the way back up. We're going to start to take it down. One vertebrae at a time. The slower you go, the more of a core workout you get. You decide how much you need at this point. Once you get all the way down, find your full body stretch, reaching the arms overhead, big inhale. And as you exhale, your hands can come to the sides of your body as we start to set up for our bridge pose, our back bend. So your feet come to the base of your spine, your knees are bent. On the next inhale, the hips start to press up towards the sky. And then as always, you have the option to keep your hands right where they are, or start to wiggle your shoulders under you a little bit more so that you can start to reach for your hands under your tailbone. If you are reaching for your hands under your tailbone, work on eventually having your whole palms pressing. So that's going to be a lot more challenging. The first step is probably just getting, well, it's definitely just getting your fingertips together. Eventually they'll interlace. Eventually the palms are touching. Just want to give you an idea what you're working towards. But wherever you are is perfect. And then we're all going to slowly, one vertebrae at a time, start to peel your spine back down onto the mat. Once your tailbone touches, just let your knees rock from side to side, kind of like we did right at the beginning of class, just sort of twisting out through the spine a little bit. And then we're going to start to make our way into our inversion. As always, you know you have choices if you're near a wall. I'm a big fan of legs up the wall. So go ahead and extend those legs up the wall if you like. Otherwise, you can do it without the wall. Right in the middle of your room, your legs will start to extend up towards the sky. Hands can either be behind the thighs, sort of holding your legs up a little bit, or you can start to sit on your hands, whichever feels more comfortable to you. That is what you can do. So we're going to hold this for about 7 to 10 of your own breaths. So you know when you first got into the pose, go ahead and start counting those breaths whenever you're ready. We'll all be at different places, and that's okay. Taking those breaths, and then eventually making your way back out of it once you've completed the breath. So like I said, take as much time as you like here. I always point out that if you are using the wall and you want to stay on the wall, go ahead and stay on the wall. We only have a couple minutes left, so you can spend the rest of your class with your legs up the wall. If they're not up the wall, go ahead and start to draw your knees back in towards you. Wrap your arms around your shins as you give yourself a little hug, a little side to side rock, or a little circle action. And lifting up your head towards your knees, so you're kind of making a little ball shape. Go ahead and place your head back down on the mat. And then we're going to extend our arms out to either side as you start to find a twist. Right side, so the legs come over to the right side. And then just start to settle in. So think about pressing both shoulders down. The left shoulder is probably lifting up a little bit. See if you can press that left shoulder back down. You can kind of decide what you do with your arms. Maybe they're extended wide to either side of you. Maybe you're bending your elbows. Sometimes I like to do a little cactus arm shape. You can either be looking up towards the sky or looking to the left. And then you have options with your legs as well. Sometimes it feels good to cross one leg on top of the other. You're crossing your legs. Either one can help get a little bit of a deeper stretch in that hip. But sometimes it doesn't feel good. So maybe you give it a try, you don't like it, you uncross them, that's fine. At this point in your cool down, you really want it to feel comfortable for you. So don't feel like you are straining to be in a shape that isn't comfortable. If that's the case for you, modify, change it, do something else. And if nothing feels comfortable, we can talk about that after class. Find something that is comfortable for you. And then slowly start to bring your knees back through center. We'll take it over to the left side. So again, finding that twist, the legs land casually wherever they want to on the left side. And then go ahead and set yourself up just like you did on the other side, deciding if you're gonna look up or to the right. Maybe you're crossing a leg, maybe you're just bringing your left hand to the right thigh and kind of massaging it a little bit. Your eyes can start to close at this point, or just letting them sort of become out of focus a little bit. This is also a great time to start paying attention to your breath again if you stopped. So again, feeling that breath come in through the body, feeling the chest, the stomach expand, and then contract. And then slowly starting to draw your knees back through center. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together on the mat. Let your knees release out to either side, kind of like a butterfly pose on our backs. Your hands can rest on your inner thighs or your stomach and your chest, following that breath again. We're just going to take a couple of breaths here, allowing the body to start to soften, start to relax. So you're not forcing anything. You're not pressing your legs down, trying to get your knees to the earth. That's not what this is about. But what it's about is not resisting. So just work on relaxing a little bit, melting a little bit, allowing the body to become heavy. Picture yourself just sort of dissolving into your mat. And then we're going to begin to make our way into our final pose. For some people, this is where they want to end their practice. Some people might still have their legs up the wall. That's great. If none of those sound like good options, start to make your way into that final pose, that shavasana that you want to end your practice in. Maybe that means extending your legs long right here on the ground. Maybe you're sitting back up. Just like we said at the beginning, choose a place that feels comfortable for you. If you're on your back, you can extend your arms wide. You can extend your legs wide. Take up as much space as you need. You're not cramped in a tiny yoga studio. You have lots of space. Use as much space as you want. Let your eyes close if they weren't already. Continue to focus on letting go. Just like we were doing in that last pose, letting go, melting, dissolving, floating, all these great words that paint this beautiful picture for us as you start to soften through the shoulders. Feel the thighs relax. Sometimes we hold some tension in our thighs, so softening your legs. Let the shoulders begin to melt. Let the head start to relax back, fully supported by the earth. Let the jaw relax. Let the breath move freely through the body, not necessarily paying attention to it at this point, but just letting it move freely. As you allow yourself to enjoy these next few moments here in Shavasana. starting to deepen your breath. Slowly starting to bring your awareness back to your fingers and your toes, wiggling them or rolling your wrists and your ankles. If you're still lying down on your mat, taking a full body stretch if that feels good, or bending the knees maybe. You can start to make your way onto one side, turning over maybe your right side with the knees bent, resting your head on your arm in a little fetal shape. Let's take a few more moments here before you get up and go back out into the rest of your day. Just allow yourself to kind of soak up everything that it was you just did. You just spent this last hour taking care of yourself, breathing and moving. Allow that to kind of settle in. And when you're ready, you'll slowly start to make your way back up to a seated position, gently pressing yourself up. You can keep your eyes closed as you bring your hands to heart center. I am so grateful for all of you for bringing your energy with you here, even though we're all virtually, it's still felt. We can share that energy. We can lift each other up even virtually. I hope you have the most beautiful night, most beautiful weekend. Until I see you all next week. Namaste.